The NAACP is an exploitative organization that really only looks to further their own profit and to keep their nonprofit status, as opposed to fix issues and problems pertaining to the black, quote unquote, community. So, this is coming to us from NJ Spotlight. From NJ Spotlight. It's an opinion piece, an op-ed. Restorative justice must be part of marijuana legal legislation, by Catherine Herrera. Okay, so about 3 years ago, I went to my local NAACP and basically made the exact same pitch. It was like, hey, look, we got screwed over by the drug war. Let's fix this. My local NAACP said they've run it up the chain. Ran it up the chain, came back, was like, oh, well, we're just going to fall behind this organization called New Jersey United for Marijuana Reform, or NJUMR. So here we are all this time later, and now on June 3rd, 3 years later, they're coming out saying, oh, we need restorative justice. This is such crap. But she's attractive. That's Miss Herrera. Sweetie, that's the thing about NAACP. It's colored people's, so it's not really. I don't consider this a black organization by any stretch of the imagination. I believe that they're one of many organizations that holds its hat on things that happened back in the 60s and 70s and have done absolutely nothing since. So let's get into this. The war on drugs damaged communities that have been historically targeted by biased policing and racial profiling. It's time to right those wrongs. Now that New Jersey State Senate was unable to pass marijuana legalization bill S2703 and the expungement bill S2305, the voters will have an opportunity to decide in 2020 ballot referendum question. If the referendum passes, what would legalization look like? Although marijuana legalization would create job opportunities for many, there are still many restorative justice components that have not been clearly defined. As marijuana legalization goes mainstream, it's easy to forget the history behind its prohibition. Y'all didn't want to, the NAACP had no interest in bringing this up. Like they sat there chasing the NJUMR and just waiting for massa to tell them what to do. That by the time it really ballooned, the balloon burst. Like, you're already too late. If it goes on a ballot and it gets put in as a constitutional amendment, basically Jersey becomes the Wild West, And I'm all for that, because with the legalization that they were pressing before, it was corporatization. But with the Wild West, hey, I mean, theoretically, home grow's going to be a thing. And you can grow some plants, grow some bud, and start your own little business if you can, as opposed to having all these pre-packaged government regulations. When President Richard Nixon signed the Controlled Substance Act, CSA, of 1970, marijuana was classified as a Schedule I drug. This is the category for drugs with no medical use and high potential for abuse. Despite having scientific evidence and reports of the effects of marijuana, President Nixon wanted to take a hard stand and wage the war on drugs. He appointed Raymond Shaffer, former governor of Pennsylvania, to the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse to conduct a study on the effects of marijuana. In the report, Shaffer recommended that Congress decriminalize possession of marijuana. Based on the Oval Office tapes that were declassified in 2002, the Shaffer report went against what Nixon wanted, which was to obscure the clear differences between marijuana and other hard drugs. Nixon championed the war on drugs, which allowed de facto racial profiling, discrimination, and disenfranchisement to affect the most vulnerable communities in the United States. So I already did the video, it's quite a few videos down, of the Nixon staffer saying, he wanted to go after hippies and black people, and so he purposefully placed the drug in the scheduling that it currently stands in. And so instead of recognizing this and fighting it, elected officials, even since then, up to this moment, really are just numb to it, particularly those of these communities. See, here's the thing, Miss Herrera, and you're cute. I mean, you are cute. I wonder what she look like with that hair down, because I bet she's really dope. She got those hot cheekbones. Yeah, she definitely alright. But Getting back to the point, Ms. Herrera, the deal is that this argument, it needs to come from the electeds of these areas. That's where everybody misses the ball. Like me as a citizen, or you as a citizen, you can go and complain to Nixon, you can go and complain to your congressman all you like, but the deal is that your mayor and your council people have to be the ones that actually step up and say something on this. And they never will, because a lot of them are paid to look the other way. A lot of them are paid, they got their positions primarily because they knew that there would be no blowback. You know, they're like, no, they wouldn't cause waves. They wouldn't sit there and say what we've all known this entire time. For the last 50 some change years, this has been purposely done to destroy our communities, destroy our families. And guess what? It worked. Racial discrimination rather than public safety. Classifying marijuana as a Schedule I drug had everything to do with racial discrimination and nothing to do with public safety. This was a way to write drugs into the law and racially charge the Black and Latino minority communities, even though people from all ethnic backgrounds use marijuana at the same rate. Only African Americans and Latino men are imprisoned at disproportionately higher rates. People are serving life sentences for marijuana-related convictions. As the billion-dollar legal marijuana industry is booming, at the same time, minorities are still being excluded from the legal marijuana industry. People that have the knowledge about marijuana but are otherwise crippled by a criminal record will not be able to profit or prosper in the marijuana industry. There is something wrong with that logic. This is an indication that the racial injustices in our laws will persist unless we get it right this time. New Jersey legislators have an opportunity to move beyond destruction caused by the legal war on drugs, but they have absolutely no motivation to. I mean, they're paid. They're good. And trust me, they're enjoying their prescription pills and their alcohol and their Xanaxes and everything else like that. They're fine. It's the communities and the people who have to grind every single day that continue to be hurt by this. But it's like a boiled frog. They're used to it at this point. They're used to just, oh, drugs bad, and you got to sit here and just throw everybody in prison. And the thing that infuriates me the most, NAACP, is that you watched it take place. Now, not this lovely, fine young lady, but the NAACP as a whole. As an organization, you sat back over this entire time, greenlit it, said, yeah, like one of the things that blows my mind about Biden and the crime bill, that crime bill was championed by the elected officials of these communities. They were the ones begging the federal government to come in and step up. So now to sit here and pretend as if, oh my goodness, this all falls on one person. No, it doesn't. It falls on every single body. And a lot of these people are still in their jobs. A lot of these elected officials, particularly in the state and local, they've been there the entire 30, 40, 50 years. And if not them, one of their disciples came up and took their place. So that's why the what's the name? This persists and this continues. And honestly, when you sat there and like really made this portion of it a bigger deal, that's one of the reasons it was a turnoff to a lot of people when it came to legalization, or as I like to call it, corporatization here in New Jersey. You sat there and was like, oh, well, we have to get all this social justice done and everything else like that, instead of just, pushing through legalization. Because I was fully for legalization, but with the ballot question and the constitutional amendment on deck, I'm more for that. I'd prefer that. Because trust me, they're like, oh, we don't want to make a way for the black market, for the legal or illicit market. Guess what? It's here. It's been here the entire time. If anything, it's the state that's trying to step in on the black market's turf. But you're doing it as a government entity, and doing it as a government entity will sit there and you sit there, you tie your own shoes together doing it like that. This constitutional amendment, that's the way to go about this. On behalf of the Newark branch of the NAACP, our stand on the issue of marijuana legislation is as followed. follows. We need restorative justice for all the people that have been deprived of a future because of marijuana-related offenses on their record. We need to get people out of jail for nonviolent marijuana possession convictions. We need to ensure that minorities have equitable access to the legal marijuana industry. It is time that justice and reparations are served to communities that have been historically targeted by biased policing and racial profiling. Okay, darling, where was all this for the past 50, 60 years, though? Anybody? I'm waiting. It's the same thing like with Senator Rice. Senator Rice is like, oh man, I want to do decriminalization. Oh, this hurt my community. Senator Rice had his job for 30 years. And you know what? I'll give you the first 10. I'll give you those first 10 years. You sat there and it's like, oh man, like the crime had gotten wild and everything else like that. You wanted to reel it in. But after 10 years and realizing, hey, our communities aren't getting better. Our families are being torn apart. Did you stop? Did you bother stopping it then? No. The only time you bothered stopping it, the only time you bother even talking about it is the moment that it became, as the moment legalization was put on the table. You had to wait for massa to come put legalization on the table, and then you get a spine? Bullshit. And Miss Herrera, I'm pretty sure she's a 2019 Rutgers graduate, so she got to be like in her early 20s. Like, she got to be in her early 20s. Yeah, it can't be late teens, so definitely early 20s. Definitely cutie, and I'm not trying to sit here. This has nothing to do with you, darling. If anything, hit me up. But the rest of this is just pure garbage. Because they had before you were born. Yeah, she's in her early 20s, so she don't even really, I don't want to say she don't know, but she ain't live it. She didn't live back in the 90s and stuff like that, so she doesn't have a full grasp or understanding of exactly all the BS that's transpired. But your organization was around during then, and they said nothing. Absolutely nothing. So the NAACP can kiss my black ass, to be 100% honest with you. Been in these streets putting in this work for all these years, and here they come. Oh my goodness, we gotta do all this restorative justice. Yeah. Like, shut up, y'all. Honestly. And it's past the fact. And we passed the fact on this one. Because if you wanted to make this big push for legalization, without the ballot initiative, that was to be made back then. And the NAACP did go to meetings. They did have people testifying and everything else like that. But as far as the furor that was really necessary, nah, they ain't bring that. They wanted to play Massa's game, and that's how you end up with Massa's results. So, she's really attractive. Like, she really is. But I think that might also be the light skin thing. Like, is she black? Because Herrera, that's like a Spanish name. Like, colored folks and all that other stuff. But, what's up? So with that being said, I hope you liked the video, and if you did, toss me a like, sub if you enjoy my fantastic voice, share if you really tired of the NAACP crap like I am, and speak. Do you think that the NAACP is just riding a wave right now, or do you think they're sincere? I believe that they're full of crap and they're just trying to ride the wave. So with that being said, until the next one.